But you don't care, no. You just don't care, no. I don't wanna play. Baby, I'm just fine. I don't need you anymore.
For content information and the link to the written version of this chapter, please check the description below. This is the 11th chapter of my original story, A Doughnut from Cakeopia, titled Apparently She's Going on a Journey. To support me, consider donating to my Cash App or my GoFundMe to help with my transition costs, which will be linked down below. Follow me on my Twitter at UTU with JJ, and also my email will be linked below for any inquiries, including commissions on creating short stories. Thank you for your support, and now, without further ado, let's get right into the story. Beedee, SJ cried, falling to his knees and lifting his friend's head. He looked up at Cinna, who stood watching in shock. Birthday? He whispered, shaking his head in disbelief. Birthday? He snapped himself out of his daze and fell to his knees, fighting back tears. She's fine, Pharaoh claimed calmly. Cinna snapped a glare at Pharaoh. How can you say that? Her flame is out. Pharaoh pressed 2 fingers to their temple and took a deep breath. She is just in shock. She is now on a journey discovering who she once was. SJ looked up with a tear in his eye. How long will she be gone for? He asked, quivering. It could be 10 minutes. It could be 10 days. She will be fine, I promise you. Cinna shook his head aggressively. How do you know that? What if she never wakes up? Pharaoh lost their patience and waxed their staff on the ground, sending a bang echoing through the chamber. Does she look like she's moulding? Or, as you say, expired? I have known her far longer than any of you. SJ blinked in confusion. You knew her before she was... well, her? Pharaoh nodded. Yes. Birthday and I used to be friends until he became jealous of the gold that I owned. Cinna gave a cold stare. Why didn't you just share the gold? Pharaoh gave a slight snicker. We were more than willing to, but Birthday didn't believe in putting in the work to earn it. We earned our share. He didn't like the idea of working for your gold, and so he became bitter until he created propaganda against us. SJ slowly placed Beedee's head down into the ground and stood shakily. It's not her fault, he pleaded. She isn't him anymore. Pharaoh nodded. I know that. But someone does need to pay for the crimes made against us. Birthday will be fine. She's just learning the information she needs to take down her... What is Victoria to her? Pharaoh asked in a moment of uncharacteristic confusion. Her mother, SJ replied. That's one messed up family, Pharaoh laughed. That's right. Laugh it up. She is in pain, Cinna cried. What is your problem? SJ looked down in bewilderment. You hardly know her. If Pharaoh says she will be fine, then I trust them. Cinna looked up with pain in his eyes. I feel like I've known her a lifetime. Pharaoh could no longer control their laughter. You love her? After knowing her, what? 24 hours? Cinna jumped to his feet. You've never been in love. You don't have a say in how I feel. He pointed accusingly. Who says I have never been in love? I have had many lovers over my centuries of life. Pharaoh snapped back. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure SJ placed himself between the two, raising a left hand to Cinna and his right to Pharaoh. We need to calm down. Beedee is is the most important thing right now. We all care about her, don't we? He asked, looking between the two. They both nodded in response. Of course. Why else would he have placed her against the wall? SJ and Cinna both looked at each other confused before turning to Pharaoh. What do you mean? Cinna asked. How did you find her? SJ asked in quick succession. She came from where everyone comes from after they expire and return. No one said anything, but Ferry could tell from all their looks they wanted more. Gurfat al-Ashwa, the awakening room, is actually here underground. SJ looked on in disbelief. How could such a place be so close, yet so unknown to them? Bellani, Ferry called just before the woman quickly re-entered the room. Have these two escorted to Gurfat al-Ashwa by Peter, please. Bellani nodded and came back a few moments later with a short man, not much taller than SJ. You called for me? Peter confidently strode in. SJ looked over the man, whose face and skin appeared to be so light that it kept slowly deflating, causing the poor man to use his thumb and blow to inflate himself again. Yes, I asked Bellani to take these two to Gurfat al-Ashwa. Ferry glared. Can I trust you with that? Peter nodded with a smirk. Come then, my squishy and sticky friends. He motioned for the pair to follow him. They both took one last look at Beedee lying on the floor before turning to Pharaoh, who only encouraged their brief exit. Now, I have to admit the name is just a little bit misleading, Peter said, reinflating himself. In what way? SJ asked in confusion. Well, you see, the name translates to room, but it's more of a... Peter pushed open a large door, much like the one that opened to the Golden Chamber. Street. SJ and Cinna gazed into the ancient underground world in amazement. From first glance, the place looked like an ordinary city. The buildings were built out of the earth with simple doorways open to the world. As they watched on, people could be seen walking in and out of each other's homes. It was almost impossible to tell the space was enclosed, until you looked up and saw nothing but earth in place of the sky. SJ looked around for where the light source was illuminating the street, and realised there were several large holes in the ceiling, dropping down rays of golden light. We are outside the wall, SJ gasped. He had come to such a conclusion after realising there were no such holes within Cakeopia. Yep, we sure are, Peter beamed. And you've never thought about climbing up and just leaving? SJ knew that would have been his first choice if he had seen this place far sooner. Why would we leave, when there's a lovely bit of land up there that already belongs to us? Peter pointed up and then turned awkwardly, realising Cakeopia was behind them. We're waiting for the big sponge to leave so we can return and live in peace. SJ nodded. He could respect that. It was their rightful home too, even far earlier than it had been his. Looking around at all the people just living their normal lives, it was easy to forget every single one of them had previously expired. A man walked past with powdery skin. Meringue! SJ didn't intend for the name to slip off his tongue, but it did, and he had no time to regret it now that Meringue was staring back at him. Do I know you? He asked in confusion. SJ shook his head, and Meringue continued with his day. I didn't know Meringue was expired. A wave of sadness crashed upon him, and Peter's face simultaneously deflated as if on cue. He may not have liked Meringue's attitude, but that didn't mean SJ thought she deserved to be expired. Peter led them further down the street to a large fountain made of a material neither SJ or Cinna recognised. The water was crystal clear as it erupted into the air and crashed down into the basin. This is where the mould had emerged from. Pharaoh calls it Yambu al-Ashwa, or as you would say, awakening fountain. SJ moved closer to the water and poked a finger into it, watching as the sugar in his finger dissolved gracefully. When he pulled his finger out, he was surprised to see that the sugar didn't return. He toyed with the idea of bathing in the water, to permanently remove any sugar from his being, but he came to the conclusion that his sugar was a part of himself, and that he shouldn't wish away any part of him, even his imperfections. He was imperfectly perfect. Is this where people are born? Cinna asked curiously. Peter shook his head. No, this is only for people post-moulding. Sorry, post-expiration. He side-eyed Cinna as he turned to walk away. Well, you've seen the sights. Back to the Pharaoh we go. SJ wanted to stay in this place for longer, but he remembered Beedee laying unconscious and turned to leave, only to freeze in place. What's wrong? Cinna asked, looking around trying to understand what SJ was seeing. Just ahead of the three of them stood a young woman, admiring a bunch of purple wafer flowers. She turned her head and smiled at SJ. Do you like flowers? Do you like these flowers too? She giggled, leaving SJ speechless. Oh, what's wrong? SJ asked. Cinna and Peretz shrugged, unsure what had overcome the man. Eccles? SJ stammered. The young woman nodded with a smile. Have we met? Though she looked far younger than the original Granny Eccles, there was no mistaking it was her. Once he realised she wouldn't remember him, SJ apologised, and the three continued heading back to the Pharaoh. When they returned, Beedee was thankfully no longer lying on the floor. She was instead in the arms of a rather strong and strange-looking man. The man was dark orange in colour and had cracks all over his skin which looked almost like stripes. This is tiger bread, Pharaoh introduced. And Tiger, this is cinnamon roll and strawberry jam-filled donut. Pharaoh waved his hand towards the men. You can call me SJ, it's far easier. SJ smiled, lifting a hand as if preparing to shake before remembering Tiger's hands were occupied by holding Beedee. Tiger stared blankly at SJ and stood stoically before laughing. Hey, what's crackin'? SJ blinked in confusion. He looked down, trying to piece together what exactly crackin' meant. His eyes fell on Tiger's large bell-bottom jeans covering his platform shoes. It was as if the man was from another planet. Tiger here is the person I have decided to explain our story to the people. Pharaoh smiled. Peretz gasped. Him? But he's not even a century old. What does he know of our struggles? Pharaoh looked over at Peretz and smiled knowingly. That is exactly why I have chosen Tiger. No one will know him. No one has seen him before, so hopefully they question where he comes from. And if they start questioning that, Cinna laughed, they start questioning everything. He piped up. Pharaoh nodded in approval. Right on. Tiger shook in approval, bouncing Beedee just a little. His golden chain bounced on his semi-bare chest, which was only covered by an open, obnoxiously green and yellow shirt. Come on, dudes. We got a skitty and get this Missy out of here and back home before someone realises she's gone. SJ hadn't considered that before now. It was almost morning, and if Beedee wasn't in her bed, Victoria would certainly think something was up. I think I would have been a better choice, Peretz complained. Chill, dude. I'm not trying to fake you out. The way Tiger spoke grated on SJ so much that he snapped and told everyone to get a move on. Tiger, still carrying Beedee, led SJ and Cinna through a long underground passageway, which led to another ladder composed of metal footholds up the length of the wall. Cinna climbed first, then SJ, who was followed by Tiger, who now had Beedee over his left shoulder. Cinna took a deep breath as he slowly pushed open the thick circular metal door above him. As he climbed out, he was panicked to see someone staring back at him. Who are you? The man demanded. Cinna climbed out, followed by SJ. Upon seeing SJ, the man relaxed. I see. I was wondering when I would get to meet you, SJ. Tarty Tatten smiled, standing in the servants' quarters of the mansion. Once Tiger had finished climbing the ladder, he gently placed Beedee on the ground as he pulled himself out. What happened? Tarty Tatten ran to Beedee, distressed. She'll be okay. SJ began realising this man clearly cared for Beedee as well. Clearly cared for Beedee's well-being. Apparently she's going on a journey. Tarty Tatten raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, a journey? SJ explained how Beedee had discovered about her past life, and Tarty Tatten nodded. He must get her to bed before Victoria wakes up. We can hide her candle with her sleep cloth. Tiger picked Beedee up from the ground. 10-4, good buddy. Where am I putting this ray of sunshine? Tarty Tatten considered this for a moment before running towards the wall. Place her in this. He opened a shutter on the wall, which opened to a decent-sized wooden board held up by ropes. It's a service lift. We can pull her up to the top floor without being seen. Tiger wasted no time in carefully placing Beedee in the lift. Tarty Tatten told the three men to wait as he ran up the stairs, ready to help Beedee from the top. SJ and Cinna waited awkwardly as they watched Beedee slowly rise up and out of sight. If you are enjoying this story and would like to see... Sorry, that was a car. If you're enjoying this chapter so far, consider donating to my Patreon, which is linked in the description below. For just £1 a month, or your country's equivalent of £1, or your currency's equivalent of £1, you will see all of my videos a day earlier before they're released. That's £1 a month, or your currency's version of £1, over on my Patreon, linked in the description below. Now back to SJ and his story. Tarty Tatten looked around nervously, relieved that no one was in sight. As the sun began rising outside, he dragged Beedee as carefully as he could to her bed and laid her down, making sure to cover her candle with a cloth. Right at that moment, footsteps could be heard clicking down the hallway. Tarty Tatten dived under the bed and watched as what looked like a disembodied dress moved closer and closer. There was no mistaking this was Victoria. But what was she doing in Beedee's room? Ah, good. You're asleep. Victoria exhaled in relief. You have a big day on Friday, she sung. I hope you're excited for your birthday party. I know I am. There'll be so many people. Lady Velvet is coming with Lord Battenberg. Apparently they're a thing, you know. I even think Madame Claire said she would make an appearance. They're all coming for the party, but they will stay when they see you. Victoria went silent for a moment, and Tarty Tatten was sure she was looking around smiling. He couldn't see her, but somehow he knew he was right. Expire. Tarty Tatten wanted to throw up his apples, but he held strong as Victoria began spilling her sick plan. Firstly, I shall hail you as my beautiful daughter, and tell everyone just how amazing you are, and then I will stab you. Metaphorically, of course, in the heart. I will tell everyone what a betraying little sponge you are. I mean, really, Victoria scoffed, stepping away from the bed. Plotting against your own mother. After all I've done for you, you never change, do you, birthday? You're always against me. You were against me as a man, and now you're against me as a woman. As soon as I find a secret place the breads are hiding... Tarty Tatten gave an audible gasp. How did she know about the breads? Victoria looked around, trying to work out where the noise had come from. She shrugged and continued when she was satisfied it was probably just the breeze. Oh yes, birthday. I know all about your little plan. I have eyes everywhere. Even in your little cafe. Tarty Tatten realised there must have been a spy amongst the rebels. He needed to warn them. As soon as Victoria was done boasting to a sleeping birthday and left the room, he quickly made his way back down the stairs to the servants' quarters. Are you sure? SJ asked in shock. Tarty Tatten nodded. We need to tell the others. Come with us to let them know. Cinna begged. I have to stay here and cater to Victoria. Don't worry, I'll keep her preoccupied, Tiramisu stated, walking into the room. I was standing outside the door when I heard everything. There are no doubts as to which side I'm on, especially after discovering where Milfoy went. Why did she have to be so nosy? Tiramisu cursed as a black coffee tear rolled down her coffee-soaked cheek. What happened? Tarty Tatten was afraid to ask and raised his hand. Actually, it's okay. I don't really want to know. If I'm right, then I don't want to think about it. Tarty Tatten agreed to head back through the tunnels of SJ, Cinna and Tiger to warn the others of a spy. He kicked himself for not thinking there would be one after. He was, after all, a spy himself. As they walked down the long tunnels, SJ realised that this must have been the tunnel the Breads had used to escape all those years ago. He wanted to query Tiger about it, but he remembered Tiger hadn't been there when they escaped. SJ may have seen what happened till they expired, but what about the births? How did new people enter the city walls? They were all questions he hoped to answer someday. It was now fully Tuesday morning when they left the opening under the log. It only just dawned on SJ that he was tired. It had been almost 24 hours he had gone without sleep. He had made a mental note to take a nap as soon as he was able. The quartet entered the cafe. As the door swung open, they noticed everyone was awake, and the first face they saw was that of Apple Pie. SJ was ecstatic to see his old friend, but Tarty Tatten was more so as the moment he laid his eyes upon Apple, he ran over and took him by the lips. Everyone stood in silence, surprised what had happened. Tarty Tatten wiped away some apple filling with the back of his hand, embarrassed by what he had just done. Apple laughed as he looked over to SJ. What? Surely you didn't think I was just into girls? SJ laughed and hugged his oldest friend. I'm so relieved to see you, he smiled. Yes, well, I told you not to cause trouble, and here we are, Apple Pie joked. Who is the owner of this cafe? Tarty Tatten asked, breaking the exchange. Cece took a step forward and shook Tati Tatten's hand. That'd be me. Tati Tatten pulled her aside and gave his information. Within a moment, Cece was on Blueberry Delight. I knew you were being too quiet. Blueberry gasped in shock and quickly ran for the door. Tiger tried blocking her path, but the woman managed to pass him through the gap under his arm. How did you know it was her? SJ asked in disbelief. Like I said, she was too quiet. The remaining rebels sat around or stood close to the table. Right. So now we have Tiger. That is your name, right? Tiger nodded to Cece. We can set our plan into action. There are 10 of us. She quickly took her head count. I want everyone to have a role. So now how about this? I'll sneak in and mingle with the guests. Hopefully no one will recognise me. Tati Tatten stepped in to correct his name. Right, sorry. Tati Tatten will be our inside spy. He will inform me of what Victoria is up to as he is serving the guests their beverages. Blackcurrant, Pumpkin, she pointed at both the men, one after the other. You two will sneak Tiger in through the tunnels. The pair both looked at each other and back at Cece with a nod. Apricot, I'm trusting you with the difficult job of distracting Blondie and Brownie. Also, if you can, take out Blueberry Delight. Apricot was about to nod before her brother Blackcurrant stepped in. Out of the question. He put his foot down. I've lost one sister to them already. I won't lose another. Apricot placed a gentle hand on her brother's forearm and smiled a smile which said that she could do it. Blackcurrant prepared another objection, but instead made a gulping sound and nodded. SJ and Cinna, your job is to get Birthday out of her party. I'm sure Tiramisu will aid you. If she doesn't, she's not getting her coffee from me anymore. Everyone gave a small amused laugh. She will, don't worry. Tati Tatten smiled. Good. Now that leaves Apple and Pecan. She pointed to the remaining two, who looked at each other nervously, having never met before. Save the best till last, Pecan joked as he pulled himself in closer to Pumpkin. You can keep watch. As soon as Birthday and the boys are out of there, you can help them escape. Hopefully Tiger is enough to convince the crowd to turn on Victoria. If not, then I'm happy to take matters into my own hands. Everyone nodded, excepting Cece wouldn't change her mind. Is everyone okay with that? We will continue planning in more detail over the next couple of days. SJ, you look shattered. Get to sleep. Tati Tatten, stop daydreaming of apple pie and get back to the mansion. Tati Tatten looked over nervously at Apple Pie, who just winked back. I'm not going to complain, SJ said with a yawn. Good. Now what could go wrong? Thank you for checking out this story. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment and share this video. You know the stuff. So that I can get more views. So please support my channel. My next goal is 125 subscribers. At the moment, we are currently on 123 subscribers. So by the time this video is up, I imagine we'd probably have reached my goal, which is really exciting. I love reaching my goals. I think it's awesome. So my next goal after 125 will be 150, again by my birthday, because we keep reaching the goals way before my goal date. So I'm going to keep updating the goal to match that goal date. So yeah, it's either 125 subscribers or 150 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, supporting my channel, and everything. I love hearing your comments on my other videos, and I can't wait to expand my channel and involve more content in the future. As you can see, this video was updated a little to what it used to look like. That's because I want to keep everything kind of in uniform with the rest of everything that's going on my channel. So yeah, I've updated the thumbnails of all of the videos from this series. My other series, Classics Retold by JJ, will keep the same thumbnails. It's really anything that I'm recording going forward that will adhere to this new system. So yeah, thank you. Tomorrow I will be releasing my first chapter of Stories Live Forever, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Bye.